Ladies and gentlemen, there's a powerful truth that you need to understand today, and I want you to hear it with your spirit. Trust God, not people's opinions. Too often we allow the noise of this world, the judgments of others, and the expectations of people to determine our path. But I'm here to tell you, if you live your life based on what others think, you'll never step into your purpose. You'll never walk in the fullness of the destiny that God has already ordained for you. God has a plan for your life that is greater than anything you can imagine. But that plan won't unfold if you're listening to the voices of those who doubt you, criticize you, or try to control your every step. People will say, you can't do this, or you'll never make it, or it's too late for you, but I've come to remind you today that their opinions are not your truth. Their limited perspective cannot contain the greatness that is inside of you. Stop living for the approval of people. They don't know what God has placed inside of you. Only God knows what He has put in you. When He calls you, He doesn't ask for permission from others. He doesn't need their approval. He says, I have equipped you. I have empowered you. I have made you capable. And when God gives you a vision, when He speaks a word over your life, no man, no situation, no opinion can stop it. But here's the thing, you can't let the negativity, the doubt, and the criticism get to you. You've got to trust God even when you don't see the way. When you're walking through uncertainty, when things are tough, when it seems like you're surrounded by naysayers, trust God. His plan is greater. His promises are sure. He will never leave you nor forsake you. His timing is perfect, even when you can't see it, and His ways are higher than your ways. So today I want you to silence the voices around you. I want you to block out the distractions. Don't let someone else's doubt keep you from your destiny. You are not who they say you are. You are who God says you are. And God says you are blessed, you are favored, you are strong, and you are more than a conqueror. When you trust God, He'll open doors that no one can close. He'll make a way where there seems to be no way. The opinions of people will never limit the power of God in your life. So rise up today. Stand firm in the belief that God has already gone before you. You don't need the approval of people to walk into what God has for you. Trust God. His opinion is the only one that matters. And when you walk in His truth, nothing can stop you. The world may question you, but God has already qualified you. And as long as you trust Him, there's no limit to what you can achieve. When we talk about trusting God and not the opinions of people, we are touching on one of the most powerful principles in the journey of faith. It's easy to fall into the trap of listening to others, letting their voices shape our decisions, and allowing their judgment to define who we are. But when you put your trust in people's opinions, you place your destiny in their hands. You give control to those who may not fully understand your purpose or the calling that God has placed on your life. The problem with this is that people's opinions are often influenced by their own insecurities, their limited understanding, and their narrow perspectives. They can't see the full picture of who you are and who you are becoming. God, however, sees everything. He sees the beginning, the middle, and the end. He knows the depths of your heart and the plans He has for you. In Jeremiah 29:11, God says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope." These are not just words, they are promises. God's plan for your life is bigger than any person's opinion, bigger than any obstacle that might come in your way. But if you allow other people's voices to drown out His, you will miss out on the great things He has in store for you. Too often we find ourselves seeking validation from others. We look to the world for approval, wondering if we're doing the right thing, wondering if we are enough. We go to our friends, our families, our coworkers, and ask for their input, their advice, or their affirmation. While there's nothing wrong with seeking counsel from wise people, the key is knowing that their opinions are not the final word. Their feedback might be helpful in some situations, but it should never determine your self-worth or your future. The world will tell you who you should be, what you should wear, what career you should pursue, what success looks like. But the truth is that the world's standards are always changing. People's opinions shift with the wind. What people think today might be different tomorrow. And if you build your life on that shifting sand, you'll never find stability. You'll never have peace. When you trust in God and not in people's opinions, you are anchored in something that is constant, something that will never fail. God's word is unchanging. He has already spoken over your life. He has already declared who you are and what you are capable of. The question is, are you going to listen to the world or will you listen to the voice of your Creator? God's plan for your life is not contingent on the opinions of others. It's not based on whether people approve or understand what you're doing. It is based on His will and His purpose for you. And His purpose for you is bigger than anything you can comprehend. There's a freedom that comes when you stop living for the approval of others. When you begin to trust God, you free yourself from the burden of trying to meet everyone's expectations. You stop worrying about what people think and start focusing on what God says. You realize that His opinion is the only one that truly matters. He is the one who called you, equipped you, and empowered you. He is the one who knows the end from the beginning, and His plans for you are far greater than any dream you could have on your own. This doesn't mean that the voices of others will disappear. You will still hear criticism. You will still face doubt. People will still question your choices and challenge your decisions. But when you trust God, you learn to see those voices for what they are: temporary distractions. They do not have the power to define your future. Only God has that power. And when you anchor yourself in His truth, you can stand firm, knowing that no matter what others say, you are on the path that God has prepared for you. You might not always understand His timing. You might not always see the way ahead. But that's where trust comes in. Trusting God means believing that He knows what He's doing, even when you can't see the full picture. Trusting God means walking by faith, not by sight. It means knowing that He is working behind the scenes, even when everything seems uncertain. The Bible says in Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make straight your paths. When you trust in God, He will guide you. He will open doors that no one can close, and He will close doors that no one can open. His direction will always be the right direction, even if it doesn't make sense to you in the moment. The truth is, people will fail you. People will disappoint you. People will not always see or understand the dreams that God has placed in your heart. But God never fails. He is faithful. And He will never leave you or forsake you. You may face rejection and you may face struggles, but God will never abandon you. His presence will be with you through it all, giving you strength, giving you peace, and giving you courage to keep moving forward. There's no greater source of confidence than knowing that God is with you. When you trust Him, you don't have to fear what people think. You don't have to second guess your decisions. You don't have to apologize for walking in the direction He's called you to walk. His opinion is the only one that matters. And when you align yourself with His will, you align yourself with your true purpose. So today, let go of the weight of others' opinions. Let go of the fear of judgment. Trust God and know that His plans for you are good, and His purposes for you are greater than you could ever imagine. When we find ourselves navigating this world, there is a powerful temptation to seek the approval of those around us. We measure our worth by the standards set by others, constantly looking to people for validation, direction, and purpose. We wonder if we're doing the right thing, if we're making the right choices, and if we're enough. The problem is people's opinions are fragile and inconsistent. They shift with time, with trends, with culture, and often they reflect nothing more than their own insecurities or limitations. If we place our trust in the ever-changing tides of human opinion, we will find ourselves tossed around, uncertain and vulnerable to the pressures of the world. But there's a deeper truth that can anchor our hearts in times of doubt and challenge trusting God, not in people's opinions. This truth holds the power to transform the way we live, the way we think, and the way we pursue our purpose. When you trust in God's plan for your life, you are grounding yourself in something that is unshakable, something that is eternal, and something that will not fail. People's opinions are based on limited understanding. They do not know the fullness of who you are or what you are capable of. They cannot see the greatness God has already placed within you. Only God knows that. When you choose to trust God over people's opinions, you shift from a life driven by external validation to one driven by internal conviction. This conviction comes from knowing that you are a child of God, created with purpose and equipped with everything you need to fulfill the mission He has for you. But this requires a radical shift in thinking. You must stop measuring your worth by the standards of this world. You must stop seeking approval from those who cannot see your true potential. Instead, you must recognize that your worth is not determined by what others think of you, but by what God says about you. God is the creator. He formed you in your mother's womb. He knows every part of you, the strengths, the weaknesses, the dreams, and the desires. He is the one who has called you into being, and it is his opinion of you that should shape your identity. The world will tell you to fit into a mold, to chase after the things they deem important, to follow a path that looks good to everyone around you. But God's path is different. His path for you may not look like what others expect, but it is the path that leads to fulfillment, peace, and purpose. And the only way to walk that path is to trust him completely. When you trust in God, you learn to silence the voices that try to discourage you. You learn to block out the negativity, the criticism, and the doubt that others may try to place on you. People will always have their opinions. They will try to tell you what you can and cannot do. They will tell you what is possible and what is impossible. They will question your decisions, your goals, and your dreams. But you have to remember that their opinions are just that, opinions. They don't have the final say in your life. Only God does. He is the one who holds the blueprint for your future, and his opinion is the only one that truly matters. Choosing to trust God is a decision of faith. It's choosing to believe in his promises, even when circumstances don't align with what you expected. It's walking forward, even when the road ahead seems uncertain. Trusting God means believing that he is in control, that he is working everything together for your good, and that he will never leave you or forsake you. Even when things don't make sense, even when the people around you question your path, God's plan is still unfolding. His timing is perfect, and he will never fail you. But trusting God also means letting go of your own need to control every aspect of your life. You can't control the opinions of others, and you shouldn't let them control you. The more you try to live up to other people's expectations, the further you move away from the life God has called you to. You can't fulfill your destiny if you're constantly trying to please others. People's opinions will only weigh you down and distract you from your true purpose. But when you surrender your life to God, when you place your trust fully in him, he will lead you with wisdom, strength, and clarity. Trusting God also means that you believe in the power of his promises. The Bible is full of promises about his faithfulness, his provision, his protection, and his love. These promises are not based on your performance or the opinions of others. They are rooted in his character. God is good, and he will always keep his word. When you trust God, you don't have to worry about the future. You don't have to be anxious about what others think or whether you'll succeed or fail. God has already gone before you, and he is making a way where there seems to be no way. There will be times when you feel misunderstood or unsupported. People may not understand the choices you make, the path you take, or the dreams you pursue. But that's okay. You don't need their approval to move forward. You have the approval of God. And that is all you need. When you trust God, you know that he has already qualified you for the journey ahead. You don't have to wait for anyone else to give you permission. When God calls you, he equips you and he enables you to succeed. His plans for you are good and his timing is perfect. At the end of the day, the only opinion that truly matters is God's. His perspective is the one that counts because he is the one who knows the whole story. He knows the beginning from the end, and he is always working in your favor. So release the weight of people's opinions. Let go of the pressure to conform to the world's standards. Trust in God's plan for your life and know that his ways are higher than your ways. When you do, you will find peace, confidence, and purpose, and nothing will be able to shake you. In this life, one of the most common struggles we face is the desire for validation from others. We live in a world where opinions are everywhere at work, at home, on social media, and even within our circles of friends and family. These opinions often shape how we see ourselves and how we make decisions. Many of us find ourselves trapped in the constant pursuit of approval, trying to live up to the standards set by others. We ask ourselves questions like, am I doing this right? What will they think of me? Will they approve of this decision? The challenge with this is that people's opinions are not only fleeting, but they also don't have the clarity or the authority to define our purpose and our destiny. People's views are often limited by their experiences, biases, and understanding, and when we allow their opinions to dictate our lives, we risk losing sight of the greater calling that God has placed on us. The truth is that God's plan for your life is far more significant than anything the world can offer. His opinion is the one that holds eternal weight, and it is His vision for you that will bring about your true fulfillment. When you trust in God rather than in people's opinions, you are rooted in a foundation that will never fail. People may come and go, their opinions may change, and their perceptions may falter, but God's truth remains unshaken. His word is constant, and His promises are sure. The moment you decide to trust God with your life, you are making a powerful statement. You are no longer bound by the limited perspectives of the world, but you are free to pursue the life He has prepared for you. There is a profound freedom that comes when you stop seeking the approval of others. No longer will you be controlled by the weight of their expectations or dictated by their criticisms. You will no longer feel the need to conform to their standards, to mold yourself into what they think you should be. Instead, you will walk confidently in the knowledge that God has already approved of you. He has already called you His own, and His opinion of you is the only one that matters. When you begin to realize that God is the only one whose approval you need, you step into a life of boldness, courage, and purpose. You are no longer bound by fear or doubt because you know that the Creator of the universe is on your side, guiding you every step of the way. Trusting God rather than relying on people's opinions also involves embracing the fact that God has a unique purpose for you. His plan for your life isn't one size fits all. The world will try to tell you that you must fit into a particular mold, that you must follow a specific path that everyone else is walking. But God has called you to something different. Your journey is unique, and your calling is unlike anyone else's. People may not understand your choices, your dreams, or your direction, and that's okay. The truth is they don't need to understand because their understanding isn't what will propel you forward. It is God's understanding, His vision, and His purpose that will carry you. When you trust in God, you embrace the freedom to follow the path He has laid before you, regardless of whether it fits into the conventional mold or meets others' expectations. God knows exactly what He has equipped you for. He knows the desires He has placed in your heart, the strengths He has earned, the strengths He has woven into your character, and the skills He has sharpened within you. The opinions of others often fail to account for these things. They look at the surface, at what is visible and apparent, and they base their judgments on what they see, not on what God sees. God, however, sees a heart. He sees the gifts, the potential, and the calling that He has placed in you. When you trust God, you are trusting the one who sees you for who you truly are, not just as the world sees you in that moment. And because He knows you so intimately, He knows exactly how to guide you to fulfill your purpose. It is essential to understand that trusting God over people's opinions does not mean ignoring the advice or counsel of others. There are many wise people in our lives who can offer insight and encouragement. But the difference is that we filter their advice through the lens of God's truth. We do not allow their opinions to control us or to dictate our decisions. Instead, we let God's word and His guidance be the foundation of all we do. When you trust God, His voice becomes the loudest and clearest in your life. No matter what people say or how they try to influence you, you stand firm in the knowledge that God is the one directing your steps. This trust in God also helps us navigate the inevitable times of struggle and doubt. There will be moments in life when the road gets tough, when the path is unclear, and when the opinions of others seem louder than ever. In these moments, it's easy to question ourselves, to second-guess our choices, and to wonder if we're on the right path. But when you trust in God, you find peace even in the midst of uncertainty. You know that God is in control, that He is working behind the scenes for your good, and that He will never leave you or forsake you. His plans for you are good, even when it feels like everything around you is falling apart. Trusting God means that you believe He is working everything together for your benefit, even when you can't see how. It's knowing that His timing is perfect, His plans are good, and His purpose for you will be fulfilled in His way. There is also a sense of security that comes with trusting God over the opinions of others. When you rely on the approval of people, you will always find yourself on shaky ground. People change, circumstances change, and the world around you constantly shifts. But when you place your trust in God, you are anchored in something unshakable. God's love for you is constant. His promises are certain. And when you build your life on His word, nothing can take that foundation away from you. You are secure in the knowledge that God is always with you, that His favor rests on you, and that His purpose for you will never fail. You don't need to fear the opinions of others because you are living for the approval of the only one who truly matters. There's a crucial truth in life that many of us forget. We are often swayed by the opinions of others. From the moment we are born, we begin to absorb the thoughts, judgments, and beliefs of the people around us. Our family, friends, teachers, colleagues, and even strangers all have something to say about the way we should live, think, act, or aspire. As a result, we start to shape our lives around their expectations, their standards, and their vision for us. While seeking advice and feedback is valuable, allowing the opinions of others to define your life leads to a life that is not truly your own. When we lean on people's opinions rather than the truth of God's promises, we risk losing sight of our true purpose and direction. The reality is, people's opinions are flawed, biased, and often rooted in fear or misunderstanding. Their perspective is limited, and they can only see the outward expression of who you are. But God, on the other hand, sees your heart, your potential, and your destiny in a way no one else can. The most important thing you can do in your life is to trust God, not people's opinions. God is the creator of the universe. He knew you before you were even born. He saw the end from the beginning and has a purpose for your life that is uniquely yours. The opinions of others, however, are based on their own experiences, fears, insecurities, and sometimes envy. These opinions cannot capture the fullness of who you are, nor can they foresee the full potential that God has placed in you. The truth is that only God knows who you truly are, what you are capable of, and where He is taking you. If you trust in His vision for your life, you are trusting in something that will never fail. God's plan for you is far beyond what anyone can imagine. His perspective is the only one that holds eternal weight. When you trust God over people's opinions, you are freed from the constant need for external validation. You no longer feel the burden of trying to fit into a mold that others have created for you. You are liberated from the comparisons, the judgments, and the expectations that society imposes upon you. This doesn't mean that you abandon relationships or stop listening to others, but it does mean that you understand that their opinions do not define you. It means that you are no longer controlled by fear of failure or rejection. Instead, you are living for an audience of one God. The moment you grasp this truth, you will begin to walk in greater freedom. You will begin to embrace the person God has called you to be, and you will find peace in the knowledge that His approval is the only approval that truly matters. People's opinions change. What they think of you today may not be what they think of you tomorrow. One day you may be praised for your actions, and the next you may be criticized or misunderstood. These fluctuations in how people view you can be unsettling and destabilizing. If you live for the approval of others, you will always find yourself on shaky ground, constantly trying to meet someone else's shifting standards. But God's love for you is constant. His opinion of you never changes. No matter what you do or how you fall short, God's love remains unshaken. His grace is constant, and His promises endure forever. The Bible tells us in Hebrews 13:8 that Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. When you trust in God's unwavering nature, you can rest assured that He will always be there to guide you, support you, and help you achieve the purpose He has set before you. Trusting in God instead of the opinions of others also means embracing the fact that God has a unique purpose for your life. The world will try to tell you that there's one standard, one way to succeed, one way to live. People will push you toward careers, lifestyles, or choices that they think are acceptable or successful, but God's path for you is far more personal. He created you with specific gifts, talents, and desires that no one else has. He has a plan for your life that is designed just for you, and it may not look like what others expect. The road that God has for you is unique, and it is a journey only you can take. When you trust in God, you are trusting that His plan for you is better than anything anyone else could ever envision. Your path may not always make sense to others, but when you walk by faith, you trust that God is leading you in the right direction. Your purpose is not defined by the limitations of others' thinking. It is defined by God's wisdom and love for you. There will be times when people criticize you or question your decisions. They will not always understand why you make the choices you do, and they will not always support the direction you take. This can be discouraging, especially when those people are close to you. However, when you trust in God, you are rooted in His truth and not swayed by human judgment. You can hold your head high because you know that you are living in alignment with God's will. The opinions of others may sting for a moment, but they will not define your worth or your future. You must remember that when God is for you, no one can stand against you. No one's opinion has the power to cancel out what God has already spoken over your life. You are not who people say you are who God says you are. Trusting God also means recognizing that His timing is perfect. The world moves quickly. People are always in a rush to achieve success, to climb the ladder, to get to the next milestone. There's a constant pressure to perform and achieve according to society's timeline. But God operates on His own timeline, one that is perfect and purposeful. You may be tempted to rush things or to follow the path that others have laid out for you, but when you trust God, you allow Him to lead you at the pace He has set for you. Trusting God means believing that He will open doors at the right time and close the wrong ones. It means trusting that everything will fall into place as it should, even when it doesn't look like it. When you trust in His timing, you will experience peace, knowing that He is in control and that you are exactly where you need to be. His plan is always greater than anything we can try to orchestrate on our own. At the end of the day, trusting God instead of people's opinions is a decision to live by faith. It's a decision to believe that God knows what He's doing, even when we don't understand the process. It's trusting that His vision for your life is better than anything you could imagine, and that His wisdom will always lead you in the right direction. When you trust God, you are placing your future in the hands of the one who created you, loves you, and knows what's best for you. No opinion, no criticism, no judgment from others can compare to the power of His plan. You are enough because God has already said you are. You are worthy because He made you that way. And you will succeed because He has equipped you for the purpose He has called you to. Trust Him and rest in the knowledge that His opinion is the only one that truly matters. In our lives, there is often an overwhelming pull towards seeking validation from others. From a young age, we are conditioned to look for approval, be it from parents, teachers, friends, or society at large. Whether consciously or unconsciously, we measure our worth based on how others perceive us. We want to feel accepted, appreciated, and validated. It is easy to become trapped in this cycle of approval seeking because it is what we are taught to value. The opinions of others can become the lens through which we view ourselves, determining our actions, decisions, and even our identities. However, when we live this way, we are living at the mercy of people's ever-changing views, judgments, and expectations. The truth is that people's opinions are limited and often inaccurate. They cannot see your heart, your purpose, or your potential the way God does. When we allow the fleeting opinions of others to control our lives, we lose sight of our true identity and calling. Trusting God, not people's opinions, is the key to unlocking a life of purpose, confidence, and peace. God's perspective of you is eternal. He sees beyond the surface. While people judge based on appearances, God looks at the heart. He knows your strengths, your weaknesses, your dreams, and your struggles. He understands the intricacies of your life and has a perfect plan for you, one that is beyond what any human being could ever dream up. When we place our trust in God, we are trusting in the Creator of the universe, the one who has all wisdom, all power, and all authority. His thoughts and ways are higher than ours, and His love for us is constant and unchanging. People's opinions can fluctuate, and they can often be based on misinformation or incomplete understanding. But God's love for us remains steady, and His plans for us are good, no matter the circumstances. Choosing to trust God instead of people's opinions allows us to live in the freedom of knowing that we don't have to live up to anyone else's expectations. People will always have something to say about how you should live your life. They will tell you how to look, how to act, what to pursue, and what to avoid. The world will constantly offer its opinions on what is considered successful, acceptable, and good. But when you trust God, you release the pressure of trying to conform to these external standards. You no longer need to seek approval from others or measure your worth against what they say about you. Your worth is not determined by what people think or say. It is determined by what God says about you. When you embrace this truth, you begin to live with an unwavering sense of identity. You are no longer defined by other people's opinions. You are defined by God's truth about you. The more you trust God, the more you realize that His plan for your life is bigger and better than any human opinion could ever be. God's purpose for you is unique. He has designed you with specific gifts, talents, and abilities that only you possess. The world will try to tell you that you have to fit into a mold or follow a prescribed path, but God has a different plan. He calls you to live authentically according to the unique purpose He has given you. When you trust Him, you are free to follow the path that is laid out just for you, regardless of whether it meets other people's standards. Your journey might not look like anyone else's, and that is okay. God's path for your life is individual, and it doesn't need to be understood or approved by others. As long as you are walking in obedience to God, that is all that matters. The opinions of others can often be a source of confusion, especially when they conflict with what God is telling us. People may question your choices, criticize your decisions, or even try to sway you from your path. In these moments, it can be easy to doubt yourself and wonder if you're doing the right thing, but when you trust God, you learn to listen to His voice above all others. You come to understand that His plan for you is far greater than any opinion or advice people can offer. People may not always understand your decisions or your dreams, but God does. He knows the end from the beginning. He has already prepared the way for you, and He will give you the strength, wisdom, and guidance to fulfill His will. Trusting God means choosing to believe that His opinion of you is what matters most, even when others don't understand. Trusting God over people's opinions also means learning to let go of the need for control. It's easy to get caught up in trying to shape the way others see us to make sure we meet their expectations and desires. We can spend so much time and energy trying to please people and gain their approval that we lose sight of what God is calling us to do. But when we place our trust in God, we release that need for control. We surrender our plans and our desire for human approval to Him. We understand that He is the one who ultimately controls our future and that He has already equipped us to fulfill His purpose. We don't need to manipulate or force outcomes. We simply need to trust and obey. Moreover, when we trust God instead of people's opinions, we experience peace. People's opinions can create turmoil in our hearts. If we're constantly seeking to please others or meet their expectations, we will never find true peace. There will always be someone who thinks we should do something differently, someone who disapproves of our choices, or someone who criticizes our actions. Living for the approval of others is exhausting, and it often leaves us feeling unfulfilled. But when we trust God, we find peace in knowing that we are living according to His plan, not someone else's. His approval is all we need, and He will guide us to the right place at the right time in the right way. When you trust in God rather than the opinions of people, you also begin to find your strength in Him. Life is filled with challenges and obstacles, and it is easy to feel overwhelmed when we face these difficulties. People may try to tell us that we can't make it or that we are not enough. But God's truth tells us that we are more than conquerors through Him who loves us. When we trust in God, we find the strength to overcome any obstacle, knowing that He is with us every step of the way. We draw our strength from His promises, not from the fleeting approval of others. God is our refuge and our fortress, and in Him we find everything we need to stand firm, no matter the storm. Finally, trusting God means that you are free to be who He has created you to be. You don't have to pretend to be someone else or live up to the standards that others set for you. You can live in the freedom of knowing that you are perfectly made in God's image with a unique purpose and calling. The opinions of others may try to shape you, but when you trust God, you are shaped by His love and truth. You are free to walk confidently in your identity as a child of God, knowing that you are exactly who He created you to be and that His plans for you are good.